Hey, welcome to the Faith Film Fan podcast. This is, folks, I'm telling you, this is the one stop shop. If you want to know about faith films and you're a fan of that kind of stuff, this is the place to be because that's what we're talking about. And today we're talking to Bob Elder. I have Alita Reynolds with me. Hey, Alita, welcome.
Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Happy New Year.
All right, guys, you've got both hosts of the Faith Film Fan on at the same time, and you don't have to pay double for it.
That's
In fact, you don't have
fantastic.
to pay anything at all,
It's the
ever.
same cost to you, but you get twice as much talent. I'm just telling you,
Wow.
we don't hold anything back here at the Faith Film Fan
Today's the
Podcast.
day.
No, we don't hold anything back. We've got Bob Elder with us today, and we're going to talk about faith films. We're going to talk about last year, the what happened with faith films in 2024, and what we're looking for in 2025. And Bob is a guy he's been on the show before and has been around this business for about what 70 years. Would you say, Bob, about 70, 80 years maybe you've been in this
Close.
business? Doing everything, running everything. He is the guy for films, faith films, getting your faith films marketed, and that he also runs the Faith Content Network and is our boss on the Faith Film Fan Show. So I'm telling you, the guy is he's awesome, and we love him. And Bob, welcome to the show, Bob Elder.
Thanks, Rick. Good to be here. I feel so blessed to have both you and Alita on the same podcast. This is amazing. Amazing. Wow. It's going to be a great year.
It is going to be a great year. Talk about faith films in 2024. What did we see last year? What were some of the interesting stuff
Woo!
that we saw?
Wow.
I
What a
mean,
year.
seems like it's
Yeah,
getting more people are knowing about faith films than they've ever known before.
they are. They are, Rick. I have been crunching the numbers from 24. We had two less releases than 23. And we had a record year in 23. There were 46 films that came to market in 23. There were 44 this past year. Very, very close as far as the number of releases. But we had a great year. And so we've got some really exciting things to talk about today.
What was the one film, if you just had to pick one film that impacted you personally the most? What film would you have
Uh,
picked? I know it's hard.
that's like picking your favorite kids from the what a great year it was. There were a good number of releases. I think to be fair, I will pick The Forge because it was the number three film for the year, which is great. It was a
Okay.
Kendrick Brothers film. It was focused on ministry, on discipleship. You all talked about it. And we saw so many great things come out of the overall campaign. It was a campaign that we were excited about going into 24. And as we headed towards August and its release, it just crescendoed quite nicely with a very decent box office. Not one of those, oh wow, where'd it come from box offices, but a decent opening and then a really great multiple, meaning the total box office over opening weekend. The Forge did great, over four and a half, and it was wonderful to see a really good multiple. It then surprised us with this little international chase. Ended up being the number one film in Brazil for several weeks, and so had a lot more come in internationally to really help the Forge overall. And then the little cherry on the top of that Forge Sunday, as you're looking at the impact the movie makes over the holidays, it trended on Netflix. And so it popped into the top list of movies that people were watching over the Christmas holidays. So we know that impact of discipleship and God's design for that was being felt literally all over the world with the Forge. So I
I
have
love
to
that.
call that one out as my favorite.
I was, of course, my algorithm on Netflix is obviously filled with faith films. And so I just keep seeing The Forge. I mean, every time I pull up Netflix, it's The Forge, The Forge, The Forge. And um, it's pretty amazing how many people have watched, theatric release, amazing. And then Netflix, I think it hit the exact right time over the holidays. So you said The Forge was number three. What were number two and number one for last year?
Number two was Reagan. And during the summer and fall, we were looking at the films coming into theaters. And whether it was the most recent God's Not Dead film or a film called Average Joe, which is a true story and is just a really great film. Or in this case, Reagan. There were some that were more conservative or politically minded. And I think in the year of an election, we saw some results for that. Great timing
Yep.
from our friends with the Reagan film to put that out, and film with Dennis Quaid, a film that just reminds us of a different time. I like to say more civil time in politics, just because it felt different at that time. And I really think our audience appreciated that, appreciated, harkening back and remembering that, Reagan, the way that he lived his life as a man of faith was very unique. And he really gave a lot to us and a lot to this country. And certainly the fall of communism and all kinds of, crazy things that happen around that. But with Quaid and John Voight, what a wonderful film, and really glad to see that perform very well. Had a nice run throughout the fall and into election season. And then number one was the best Christmas pageant ever, which Alita, I know you had the pleasure of doing the interview on that. And it's, man, I just there's something that happens around Christmas that we get
Yep.
to experience and remember every year, that God's incredible gift to us, and to see that through the eyes of Dallas and certainly the team, and that put so much energy into that film. It's a beautiful film and a best-selling book that so many people know about. And so to see that come together and be delivered and really feel the impact of Christmas and what we all are hearkening for, to remember around Christmas time was fantastic. And it actually has continued to perform all the way through the holidays.
So
It
good.
had an early November release. It was a little early,
Yep.
and I think we were all a little bit nervous about it, but the marketing teams did a great job of putting a special scene from The Chosen behind a sneak peek, and that got it out of the gate. And then it held all the way through the Christmas holidays. Um, in 2024, the total office of it is just under 40 million, is 39 point something.
Wow.
But over into 2025, it's now accumulated over 40 million. So it joins another club there with an over $40 million box office, which was really wonderful.
That's
So
phenomenal.
congratulations to Kingdom Story Company and the teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Why do we talk about the numbers when it's a faith film? I think it's so important for us to understand, like, why do we talk numbers when it's a faith film?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it's not about the money, it's about the impact, and the numbers are a way that we measure impact. And we know that at a certain box office number, there's a certain number of people who have seen it. And the way that film works is there's a story that's told with its theatrical release that then gets expanded upon. So the long-term impact of a film is greatly influenced by its opening weekend and how high up the list it goes and how high of a watermark, as they say, it achieves on opening weekend. And just the economics of releasing movies in theaters, there's thousands and thousands of movie theaters, and there's a lot of competition. And there's a lot of you know, kind of leveraging the release schedule, the major studios, and the way that the movie business works. It really is a business. It's a cutthroat business. So in
Yep.
faith films, we want our message to be out there. And I'm excited that our message is getting out there, but it is still a fraction, around 3%, 3.3% this year of the total box office. So the far majority, 95 plus percent in any given year of movies in theaters, the dollars that are being put through are on something that, while some of it may be inspirational, it's not really identified as faith. So we would love to see that percentage go up. We'd love to see more faith films in theaters. And as Rick says, he always says this: if you want to see more of them, you got to buy a ticket. How'd I do, Rick? Did I sound
Well,
like
yeah. I
you?
mean, because Lita, you brought up a great question about the why do we talk about money when we're talking about a faith film. Well, it takes a lot of money to make a film. Just to do the kind of film at the level that we're seeing, like the greatest Christmas pageant ever, right? That you've got so much money to make that. But then once you spend all that money making it, you're not done, because you got to tell America, oh, America, on this day, we're going to have this film in theaters. And there's going to be all these other films, but we want you to see our film. Well, how much does that cost? That costs more than making the movie. In a lot of times, you spend more money on the marketing. Yeah. So it's so expensive. So if, and it seems like, and Bob, I'd love to talk about this, but this audience is starting to develop for faith films. It seems like we got 40 million on The Forge, 40 million on the greatest Christmas pageant ever. I mean, we're seeing these movies doing so well, the kinds of numbers we didn't used to ever see on Christian films. You know, every now and then we'd get one pop up, but it seems to be pretty regular. Talk about this, the audience learning, oh, we love these films and we want to buy tickets.
There's a couple of stats I want to share with you all on this 2024 box office. One of them is, for the first time since we've been tracking Christian films in theaters and faith-based box office, 2024 had a faith film in theaters every day of the year. In 2024, from January 1st to December 31st, you could find a Christian film in theaters. That's the first time that that's happened. We've had gaps before. We've had bigger box office years. If we go back to 2004, 20 years prior to that, The Passion of the Christ was very successful on the number side, with the over $300 million in box office. But with the number of releases, even in 23, when we had 46 films over the course of the year, there were still some gaps, days that we didn't have a Christian film in theaters. All those gaps closed in 2024. I don't know if that's going to happen in 2025, but I was really excited to hear that. That means that we have something of eternal purpose available in the theaters every day of the year. So I was excited about that.
You know, I was talking with GJ, my husband, about faith films. And I thought to myself, how often do Christians want to have a new film come out? If they just had their way, how often would they have a faith film come out? And I thought, I would say most weekends, a family probably sits down and watches a movie. So I'm like, wouldn't it be so amazing if we could get to the point where a new faith film releases every single weekend, so that people could really see a film that they feel great. They're not breaking fellowship with the Lord by going and watching this film. I just think we're in the right movement. We're with the right trajectory of moving into 2025. I'm really thankful that you have, Collide and your entire network of companies have done such a great job of helping spread the word about faith films.
It's it's a good it's a good time, and I think more's coming for. I think we're going to see more investment into it. I'm hopeful. There's a lot of things we're going to talk in a little while about, some of the things that we see coming on the horizon. But what we have seen is just a wonderful commitment to the audience. I used to say a decade ago, as the quality of faith films was increasing, they were getting better and better. I would challenge everybody on the marketing side that we need to be better as well. And fortunately, with technology, it's gotten a little bit easier to target. And it's not as simple as just go find the Christians. We have to time things out with what's going on in the culture, and we have to make sure the messages are resonating. But it's getting, if you really work at it, it's getting a little bit easier and more cost effective to reach your audience and help remind them. And honestly, it's why we started Faith Film Fan. And we wanted a place where you could go and have a list of everything coming, where you can look ahead and plan your your next week or your next month or even the next season out with, oh, I know this is coming. I can watch a trailer and learn more about it. And it just helps us prepare the audience for that because there's a lot of great things coming and we don't want to get there and miss it. We don't. That happens. We work hard on a film for its whole campaign, and it's opening weekend or even after opening weekend. It's 2 weeks later, and our friends say, "Hey, is that film still coming?" We're like, "It released 2 weeks ago and it was number 5 at the box office, but it wasn't number 3, so you didn't hear about it on the news, or it didn't get your attention. But millions of dollars were spent making it, millions of dollars were spent marketing it, and somehow we miss it." So we hope that the nice thing, and I like what you and GJ discussed, Alita, is that if every weekend there was something going on, each weekend that we go in to see a film, we can also see the trailers for the upcoming films. It's a way for those films to promote each other, and that's part of what we've done. Certainly with the Faith Film Fan as well. Let's get the awareness out there so that the audience knows and can start to prepare.
That's faithfilmfan.com. And you can go there and find out what's playing right now, what films are coming out. And you can also go and find all the podcasts that we've done there. So if something you want to hear, or listen to Alita, hear some good podcasts. You can listen to Alita's, and you can find them all there. Faithfilmfan.com.
You're so encouraging. You're so sweet. But let's get real. Most of the episodes have been you, Rick. You do such a phenomenal job. So thank you for being so complimentary.
Yeah, you're both terrific, and we love the different perspectives that you bring, and to the audience. So sometimes it's a matter of who has a minute to record it, and other times we match that up quite nicely with whatever guests that we have coming in. So I love the perspectives that you both bring, and we've been pretty consistent over the last year or so now, actually 2 years. So since we've been doing Faith Film Fan podcast in 2023 and 2024, I wanted to share something that we noticed as we calculated all the box office at the end of the year. I mentioned the number of releases in 24. It was 44 releases and 46 releases in 23. Those years were significant. Add those two up, it's 90 films. Since 1998, when we started tracking, I mean, really, there have been films that have had some faith messages in them, but not as overtly as really the early 2000s. And so we've gone back to 98 with Prince of Egypt and the Omega Code in 99. And then what got me going on Christian films was Jonah, a VeggieTales movie in 2002. That was the first faith film that I worked on. So some of those early years were pretty sparse, but in the early 2000s, along came The Passion of the Christ, along came Facing the Giants with Kendrick brothers, and then the Irwin brothers with October Baby. And so as Christian films have grown and we've seen more and more content come to market, we have seen the release schedule be, sort of boistered up at the same time. And in the last 2 years, we've had two pretty solid years. They haven't been the biggest of box offices because there are a couple of things we're going against. Seems like every decade there's something of significance, like The Passion of the Christ, that just took a lot of box office in total in 2004. And in 2014, a decade later, it was the year of the Christian film. In the same season, we had Heaven is for Real and God's Not Dead, the first one that just overperformed, and Mom's Night Out with the Irwin brothers. All those films, there were about 5 of them, came out within a 11, 12-week period that spring. And that was an incredible box office year. So those years, 04 and 14, still hold high, but we've done pretty well. Last year with The Sound of Freedom in 23, that was one of the wow, what happened, 180 some million in box office. And so that really pushed up 23. And we looked at a lot of our numbers in 24 and said with or without Sound of Freedom, because the box office actually had more films that did better than 10 million, more films that did better than 20 million in 24 than they did in 23. I won't go too deep into the numbers, it's just getting too nerdy. But the thing that really struck me is that all the way through 24, there's a total of 370 faith films released theatrically, marketed to the faith-based audience and beyond. So that's what we use to calculate what we put on what we track. And over since 1998, we started tracking these. And over this 25 years, there have been 370. 90 of them happened in the last 2 years. That's 24% over all of that time, just in the last 2 years. And we'll probably break that this year. There's so much coming. It's so exciting. So we have seen a resurgence. The overall box office in theaters is still lower than 2019. The COVID pandemic impacted theatrical movie going like no other industry. And I think that, darkened room sort of added to that people were more resistant to come back into theaters, whereas they'd go see an outside concert, feeling much more safe in 21 and 22. But it's taken time for that to rebound, and it hasn't fully rebounded. And then if you just broaden out and look at Hollywood and everything else happened, there was a strike in 23 that impacted the supply line of the supply chain of content, and faith films are not immune to that either. We were disrupted. In fact, one of our upcoming films, Unbreakable Boy, has been sort of stuck in the can for a while. It was going to release back a few years ago, but got held because of COVID. So those disruptions and everything have played their way out. But in the last 2 years, we've seen a really good percentage of Christian films, and we've seen record numbers as we're reporting here. And that is encouraging. Brings us back to a film available every day in the box office, which is quite wonderful.
Well, let's talk about 2025. What do
Yes.
we get to see in 2025?
So right now we're looking at 25 as the year of animation, if you will. I mentioned Jonah of VeggieTales movie was the first film that I worked on. I've now had the pleasure of working on well over 100 different films that have been released theatrically. And this year, we're going to see, right now on the schedule, we have three of them. King of Kings, which will release in around Easter time, before Easter. And then at the end of the summer, Light of the World, which is this beautiful 2D animated feature of Jesus. So both of those are really gospel animated tellings of the gospel story, both King of Kings and Light of the World. And then a long time coming, we're hopefully going to have the release of David. And David is on the life of David, the animated feature from Sunrise Studios. And they have been they put out a 5-minute proof of concept a couple of years ago as a part of their sort of fundraising and crowdsourcing. A lot of people have seen that. It's just incredible. They also created an episodic series called Young David that our friends at Minnow have taken out. And that's been very successful as a precursor to the feature film David. And so that's headed for holidays of 25. So we'll watch that as the year goes along, but that's what it's looking like. And so three major animated features for families. So Alita, you were talking about what do we do? I think we really need to see the families return to theaters. We've had a lot of different genres and experiences over the last couple of years, and films that are very accessible, from Jesus Revolution to the best Christmas pageant ever. However, they're not always great for the younger kids, and to be able to bring in the animated, that they reach across generations. That's what we love about animated features, is people of all ages enjoy a great animated feature, and we'll have hopefully three of them this year.
As I was looking at Netflix, a lot of the top movies are animated films right now. And I thought that was a little bit surprising in a way, but then I'm thinking, well, during the holidays, the kids are home, so they're watching a lot more family friendly movies. So I think that moving in that trajectory is so beautiful. So we have films, but we also have series. So how are series going to roll out in 2025? Is that theatrical, or is that more like on like
Yes
streaming
and yes.
platforms. Yes and yes.
Yes and yes.
Okay.
So we're very excited. March will bring out the fifth season of The Chosen. So when we talk about series, episode series, you have to start with The Chosen. It has been such an impact, now really worldwide, being translated into so many different languages and going all over the world. And the Come and See Foundation, the nonprofit behind The Chosen, is very focused on that distribution worldwide, the language interpretation of The Chosen, and it's they've got some really wonderful goals to really share God's love, share this incredible message all over the globe, and have been doing so as the seasons of The Chosen keep coming together. Well, season five, which has only been teased in different ways, it will release in theaters first. It is a way to go and enjoy. And this year, they've named the whole season The Last Supper because it takes place in a shorter period of time, the whole season. And so they'll be rolling out those episodes in groups and offering them in theaters. So you'll be able to go and binge together with your community the whole season five of The Chosen if you want to do that theatrically. And then, of course, it'll be coming quickly after on the Chosen app, and audiences will be able to see it individually or in your home or just with your family. But the ability to go with your community and bring your whole tribe together and go see it in theaters is really fun. I'm really surprised that some of the more popular series of television over the years have not done more of this. It's a unique experience that we're leading the charge on. Typically, what's happening in the Christian market is a reflection of what's happening in the general market. That's not the case with The Chosen. Chosen's leading the way. Last year, part of our overall box office was the release of season four in theaters, and they broke it up in three parts. And those three parts last year did over $30 million total in box office, which is a really big number. And individually, it would have jumped into the top five, but they were three different experiences. And this same thing will happen this year, but we expect it to be very successful theatrically. And so, yes, on they'll continue to use theaters as a part of that, but also yes, on going directly to a major streaming platform. And the biggest announcement that came out over the holidays was I think it was late November, early December, they announced the House of David releasing on Amazon Prime at the end of February. And that is going to be a very big deal. So we're excited because of the quality of filmmaking and the investment into that and what it promises to be. And similar to what I said about the life of David in an animated feature, David's life from First and Second Samuel and the biblical text is so powerful. There's so much for us to unpack and understand, and this is the project that Dallas Jenkins and John Irwin have come together with the Wonder Project to make the House of David, and it's going to be big. It's going to be very big. So we're all going to be talking about that in just a few short weeks.
Angel has a, don't they have a series as well that they're starting?
Yeah, they actually, here's a little mix. That's a great question, Rick, because it's a mix of that theatrical and that online. And that is through Homestead. They released in December the movie, which acts as an anchor or sort of pilot, get you going to kick off the series of Homestead. And so they're chasing that with four episodes, and they're going to make more of the episodic series of Homestead. So all the characters that you meet in the feature length movie, you get to then experience ongoing with the episodes.
Now we
So they're
then
doing
we
that
had
too.
we had you talk about The Chosen being a Fathom event, and we had Katie from Fathom on the show just a few weeks ago. And can we talk about the impact Fathom is having on Faith Films?
It's amazing. They used to call it just their inspirational vertical, but it really has changed how they approach the marketplace. Fathom started, it was 20 years ago. They just celebrated their 20th anniversary. 20 years ago, they started as an alternative distributor of really concert, or they're famously known for the Met Opera, the Metropolitan Opera. They have taken and put that into theaters. And early on, with Christian content coming about 15 years ago, some of uh, the content that would not normally be seen in a theater, but more the documentaries and the more inspirational that could lean towards teaching a little bit, but definitely highly entertaining. Kirk Cameron's projects on Unstoppable, Monumental. These came to market and started really finding an audience. And then along came some creation documentaries, as Genesis History and Genesis Paradise Lost, different projects that came and really started to pull together a Christian audience participating in theaters. And Fathom was most well known for what they're putting into the theaters Monday through Thursday. As they grew and grew their influence, they have now pivoted, and they just announced here in January that they're changing their name to Fathom Entertainment. They've been known as Fathom Events, and they're pivoting to be Fathom Entertainment. So they're signaling they're going to uh, be taking projects out in theatrical runs as well as their eventized 1 and 2 night events. And so we'll see more and more of that. In 23, one of the big performers was a film called The Blind, the origin story of Phil and Kay Robertson, which is so well received. Fathom did $17 million in box office. And as I just mentioned, The Chosen, $30 million this past year, this past spring. So they're doing more and more and being seen as a competitive distributor in the marketplace. And they had a record year. Not only their faith content did really well, but also they had the 15th anniversary of Coraline last year that set some records for them. So Fathom is in a really good spot, and they're using their leverage to really bring something for everyone to theaters. Now, we as believers, we know we have something. And so we get to fill that out quite nicely because there are a lot of Christians who want to their views to be affirmed in the cinemas, and they're supporting this, which is why we do Faith Film Fan, is to help encourage people to connect with this content and then see and use it as a ministry tool. And Fathom does not get in the way of that at all. Whereas a traditional distributor may look at it and say, well, how does it compare to the other things that we have? And is this the right message? And is it, broadly affirming to all in a way that is not offensive? Fathom is agnostic when it comes to the content. They really allow all in, so it allows us to share even different perspectives of faith into the theaters, which is really fun. And they're great to work with. They've done a good job of setting the theaters up for success with their content, and we would expect them to have another good year. I think they had 23 releases of those 44 last year were the Fathom releases. So they're a big part of the marketplace for sure.
So that's one innovative way that Faith Films just continue to ramp up in the box offices. And then Faith Content Network, I know you're involved in that. So help us understand how that works and how that work helps the box office numbers too.
Absolutely. So, Faith Content Network is our way of offering films as ticketed events in churches. And we'd started this several years ago in conjunction with Fathom. So, Fathom was looking for a better way to connect to the church. And we said, why don't we take the films into the churches and offer them at the same time that they're in the theaters? One of the challenges of theaters overall, and this happens, you all have had this happen, I'm sure. About the time you're thinking about going and seeing something, it's gone. It's this scarcity. And Fathom Events, especially, which has been known, they were known for their 1 and 2 night events. If you miss it, you miss it. And then you're waiting. It used to be 3 months. Now the holdback is closer to 30 to 45 days. It used to be 90 days. But you're waiting another 4 to 6 weeks before it's available on a way for me to see it, whether that's, you know, renting it digitally through Amazon or on my favorite streaming service. You have to wait for that. Well, that window, they call it a window in movie releasing. They hold back the other windows so that it keeps value for the theatrical experience. And with Fathom, when you're only planning on being in for a couple of nights, it's was creating more demand than could be satiated by the interest that's out there. So we've been able to work with them and offer movies in non-Fathom markets. So where there's not a movie theater, because Fathom also has a limited footprint. They're typically on 800 to 1,000 screens on average, and there's 6,000 movie theaters across the country, and there's lots of places. There may be a movie theater, but it's not showing my favorite Fathom event. My church can then host that at the same time it's in the theaters. And we offer that through the Faith Content Network. So churches sign up, it's turnkey. The network takes care of delivering the content and collecting on the receipts. So each church, when they sign up, they pick their day and their time and their location, and they can determine even a limit of number of people, and within 24 hours they get a live link to start selling tickets. And I think we have a minimum of 10 tickets for the event to actually happen, which is really easy to hit. So they put their link out via social media or email or however they want to really deploy that, and people start signing up, buying tickets, and show up. And it's turnkey on the church's part as well. So many churches have the ability to show content now. As long as you have broadband access, you can press play on content that's you can't buy, you can't rent, you can't get in another way, but you can exhibit it as a ticketed event in your church. And we sell tickets for a little bit less than the typical theatrical release, and that has been growing over the last few years and has been very successful. We've been doing it since 2020, really. The year of the pandemic was a slow roll for it, but it started to become very popular in 21, 22, 23, and we had a great year this last year.
So if some church would like to take that opportunity, how does that work? How can they get set up?
Yeah, go to faithcontentnetwork.com. And you'll see what films are available right now, what you can offer, and join the email list, and we'll continue to announce to you when the next films become available. There are a lot coming this spring that we'll be offering out at the same time that they're available in the theaters, and the church can just you just fill out a little information form, and our customer service team is ready to go and help you along the way.
That's
And so you can,
faithcontentnetwork.com. And is that strictly for churches, or if somebody wants to do a showing in their neighborhood and put up a big screen in their backyard and invite their neighbors?
yeah,
Is that
you can do it in a community center, and you could do it in your backyards. Yep, it's available in different locations. You just need to, there's FAQs on the website. You can see what you need as far as access, and being able to host it. Yep.
love that? So 2025, what are your hopes and dreams for this year? What do you see coming? What are you looking forward
Yeah.
to?
In addition to animation and series, I think we'll see just more and more content. There's been a growth of investment into the making of Christian films. We've had there are some distributors that are very involved in this: Lionsgate, Sony, we just talked about Fathom, Angel. All these distributors have been continuing to find more content and put it in the proverbial pipeline. And so there's a lot of content. Like I mentioned, Unbreakable Boy, that's been sitting for a while. We're excited that that'll come out here in February. And also, I think because Angel's been so bold with their release dates and really going after releasing things at Christmas time in the middle of the summer blockbusters, that we have films spread across the year in a greater way. And Angel has a good release schedule this year. I think we'll see more and more coming from them this year. We are just this winter, we have releases that have are coming in January and February and March, and then along comes Easter time, and off we go all the way through summer and then fall and back into the holidays. So the year will flash by, but I think we're going to see Christian films releasing almost every week. It's a good release schedule ahead of us, and there's a lot of content that's in production or in post production, or it's coming into pre production that will continue to flow. And I think we're going to have a really good year of Christian film in 25.
Other than the
So I've been
animated,
saying let's thrive in 25. Animation is a big part of it for sure.
other than the animated things you're looking forward to, any specific films you're really looking forward to this year?
Yeah, I would say the animated ones have my attention right now, Rick. And I think that's because one of the things that you do a wonderful job of pointing out, and I love how you ask the filmmakers even what their budgets are, because as you say, they're not cheap to make, and there's a you can invest tens, if not hundreds of millions into films. You can also make films at lower budgets. And it's hard to make a film for under $1 million, but it can be done. And films can be made that really look good for $2 to $5 million. That's not the case with animated. You would struggle greatly to make an animated film under $5 million. They really, it's way too hard. Just the work that's required on the story side, the work that's required on the design, the art development side, and to put that all together, and then the actual animation, whether it's 2D or 3D, it takes a lot of effort. It's really, really hard, and uh, it's really, really expensive. So we have three animated features coming this year, and they are all major investments, like millions and millions and millions of dollars. And so to see that coming, the value of that's been invested into the making of those, and I know they're investing a lot of money into the marketing of them as well. I think our audience is going to be really pleased because these experiences will be wonderful for families, but they'll also be wonderful for reaching the world and reminding people of who their creator is and how much God loves us, that he would sacrifice his son for us in the case of the two gospel focused ones. And even in David, I think we're going to get so much out of that from the life of David. I think for families to share their faith with their kids and with their communities, and really all the way across the world, these are going to be incredible ministry tools, which is why we do what we do. Yeah, we're not doing it for the dollars. We're doing it because of the impact of God's love and his ability to reach people through media uniquely. And when we get involved in that as believers, we get to share and really encourage those conversations with our community inside the church and throughout the neighborhoods.
I'm going to just go off a little on this animated stuff. I mean, it is so important. A lot of our Christian films are for an older audience, and we need to talk to the kids. Right now, Disney's got your kids, and they're setting the tone. Disney's setting the tone of what morality is, what the standards are, and as we're seeing, it's degrading and it's not very good. And animation is so crazy expensive. You know about VeggieTales. You were a part of that. You know that history of how important that was when VeggieTales imploded. We really haven't had something for kids in the Christian market because of the money. It's so expensive to make it. So this year, I'm so glad to see these expensive animations finally getting to market. But I would love to see Christian families say, okay, we're tired of letting Disney decide what our kids believe and what they think and how they think about what morality is. Let's let them look at the Bible. We've got some great Bible stories coming. I'd love to see the families get involved. This is so important. Our kids, talking to our kids. And I love what the Christian faith film industry is doing, is expanding. And now I think going to the kids is the natural next step that has been needing to happen for a while. So I'm with you, Bob. Very excited about that this year.
That's going to be awesome. Yep.
Well said, Rick. Thank you for sharing that and just helping remind people of what we're doing here. Bob, thank you for sharing all of your wisdom. I actually learned a lot just in this 50 minutes that we were just talking. I was like, oh, I thought I kind of understood, but wow, you gave us even more of a broad understanding of how important faith films are. And we're just thankful to be a part of this. And we're just cheering you and hoping that we can do whatever we can to support so that more and more people know the love of God.
Thank you, Alita. And I would say share. That is really important. If you have found this podcast or past podcasts valuable, share them, send them to your friends, and let people know about Faith Film Fan, a place where you can find out what's coming. We work hard to keep that updated, and would love for you to continue to share that as you hear about things that are going on in the market and feel like something that you want to participate in. In order to go deeper on that, we're going to add a blog to the Faith Film Fan website. So you'll see that coming up with some written announcements and just different perspectives. The same thing that we're doing on the podcast. We'll do some of that in writing as well. Help us with building our socials, and those are all just vehicles to help connect people. And really, at the end of the day, we know that faith film matters greatly to you and your walk, and we know that you use it as a tool to edify your walk and evangelize the world. It's a part of how you express and how you feel, and we want to help and encourage that more and more. And so we welcome the interactions. We'd love to hear more from you. Please feel free to send us direct messages and notes, and even hunt us down, call us, and talk to us about what you're seeing out there in the marketplace, and how your church, your community, your family can be more involved in using Christian film to inspire and really encourage and rededicate people's lives to Christ. We see so many wonderful things that happen, and we would love to bring more and more content to theaters. But of course, we have to have more and more audience to do so, and that's where you all come in. So thanks for listening and being a part of the Faith Film Fan.
Well, Bob, you've been such a, and are, continue to be such a major wheel that turns the getting Christian films to America. And just, there's such a, once you make the film, you've got to market the film. People have to know about it. And you really are kind of leading the way in that. And it's behind the scenes, but you're a massive player in this. And I appreciate your heart for these faith films, for getting these important films to families, giving them good, positive alternatives with a Christ-centered message, a message of hope, peace, joy, love, a biblical standard that we need so desperately in our nation. And so thank you, Bob, for your tireless commitment to making an impact. And I know we've had this conversation many times. Impact is what you're all about. And that's what's so important about these films is that they can impact, they can change lives. And it's important. So it's important that we support them. And Alita, you're awesome. Bob, thank you. This has been great. Thanks so much.
Hey, Rick, before we wrap, I think we have to know what's happening later this year. I think this is really important that you, as a host,
Yeah,
I've been
I
talking
was
about
like,
everybody else's
Me?
films.
we are not going to end this podcast without talking about one last important announcement.
I was going to
Share
let that
with us.
pass. I was going
Nope.
to just go.
Well, we weren't.
So a follow-up to the film I made for the Kendrick brothers called Show Me the Father. We're doing a follow-up for women called He Calls Me Daughter. And that film is scheduled to be in theaters October 8th, 9th, and 12th as a Fathom event. So very excited about that. It's got Cameron Arnett from The Forge and BJ Arnett are going to be in it. Alex Kendrick is in it from the Kendrick brothers. Lindsay Snyder, the owner of In-N-Out Burger. So we've got some, Shonda Pierce is in it. So some great people talking about the father wound and finding healing and hope through that. So it's going to be a very important film. And thank you guys for plugging it.
Well, talk about a ministry tool, Rick. Thank you. You've been carrying this for a long time. I know it's a big year for you, and we're excited to see this coming together. And it will minister. I still hear stories about Show Me the Father and the way that has impacted men with the father wound. And I know it's been on your heart since then to really dig into a vital part of the hearts of the body of Christ, and the way that unfortunately we live in a broken world, and some of these things they're there. I know it's your heart to bring healing to that, and I really believe that what you're doing is going to let God do what he does
Yeah,
in
giving him
healing.
the glory. Absolutely. Well, listen,
That's good.
I want to talk to you, the listener. Thank you for giving us your time and listening to the Faith Film Fan podcast. We love doing this. We care about you. We care about you getting information on films that you want to see. And I just want to thank you for listening. And I do agree with Bob. Subscribe, tell your friends, share it. And Alita, I love doing this together. I love tag teaming. That was awesome.
I know. This is great. I feel like we should just do this all the time. I think the last time we were on together, I'm like, oh, we could do this much more often.
All day long.
So
all day long.
thank you for hosting.
And
Thank you,
Bob,
thank you.
and you as well. And Bob, what a great time. So much great information, and looking forward to 2025.
All right. Be blessed.
All right. And thank you.